Okay, so welcome everybody to our community board meeting for Te Awamutu. It's great to have you all here again, and welcome to any visitors that we have. I actually just had a quick idea, and I thought that it might be quite nice to introduce our staff. So you'll see we've got Sally Sheedy joining us, Gary Knighton, we've got Joe Greed, Wayne Allen's just popped in, and Kieran Phillips is hiding in the background, making sure everything's ticking over. So welcome, and thank you to the council staff for joining us tonight at tonight's meeting. So first up, we've got apologies, but I don't think we have got anybody because we look like we're all here. So we will move on to late items. I don't know of any. Kieran or Joe, did anything come up at all? No, so that's all fine. Can I please confirm the order of the meeting be confirmed? Please note that we will be removing item 12, which was for an extension of discretionary funding, and that's just quickly because that was actually resolved between the time that the agenda came in and our actual meeting. So we can take that out. So Lou, I think I saw your hand pop up. Thank you. Seconder for that. Gary, thank you very much. Okay, so tonight we do have someone for the public forum. We have Mark Harrop, the principal of Patarangi School. So welcome, Mark. It's lovely to have you here, and we look forward to your proposal. So the floor is yours, or should I say the video camera is yours.
Fantastic, and this house is also mine too. Hey, it's lovely. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for letting me come in and speak with you all on what may be your final Zoom meeting this year, possibly, with the good news that we're all back at level 1 now, which is fantastic. I know that our schools had a great time opening the gates up again and letting our parents come through and check on their kids' handwriting and all that. It's been wonderful. So I hope you guys have had a good day in your level 1 and you've all popped your bubbles, which is what we all needed to do. Rightio. So what I want to talk to you about is an idea that came about halfway through last year that we've been mulling around, and it's really in essence about how do we acknowledge the good in the children of Te Awamutu. As you know, principals of schools, we're our children's biggest advocates, and every school that I know of around our district have a core set of 4 values that mean a lot to who they are. For example, our 4 core values are perseverance, responsibility, integrity, and respect. So when we talk to our children about the behaviours that we wish to see in them and the citizenship that we are looking for with our children, we talk about our school values and what they look like. And we often say to our kids that those values mean so much to us that it's not just about what you do when you're at school, it's about when you're out in the community. And when you leave the gate, you carry Pāterangi with you, you carry our school values with you, and you are role modelling our school to those who see you. But it's very hard to acknowledge that, and it's very hard to reinforce the message that what they do matters, not just when they're at school in their classroom, but when they're out and about. So the idea came up that we could create a system within our town where we actually have a way to acknowledge children doing those things that we see as positive for our town, those behaviours that show citizenship in action, whereby you get businesses and council-owned properties and places where children gather on board with this program so that they can acknowledge our youth doing positive behaviour. And an example that I like to use is, say, a librarian is stacking books on the shelves, and they see a young boy reading to his sister, and that librarian might go, oh, I love the way they're looking after the space. So they could go and get, say, the citizenship token or something like that, and they could go to these children and say, hey, I really love the way you're respecting our space, and I love how you're sharing and caring for one another. Here's your citizenship token. And so the children will be then recognised instantly, and understand that what they're doing is being noticed and celebrated. And then what they can then do is take that token back to their schools and the schools will make a big hullabaloo about it, celebrate it, and all those good things. But then they can also exchange that token for whatever positive reward system they have in their schools, and then acknowledge them that way. I just think that if we had people like the museums, the library, the police, the bus drivers, our sport referees, our coaches, places where the children gather en masse, particularly our more older children, say like McDonald's and Toy World and the Warehouse and these sort of places. If our Te Awamutu township had a way in which we can catch kids being good or catch kids showing citizenship, and that we can celebrate that, it's a wonderful thing. And it proves to our children when we say what you do matters and our values matter, we can show that in a real way when they're out and about. And then, of course, you can do things like every school could record the amount of children who have come through and have this token. And then term by term, we might organise a group celebration for all the children in the Waipa district who have been caught living up to our values, or potentially the 10 or 12 or 15 or whatever it is, kids who were pulled out of the draw or whatever, and they could have an extra reward where perhaps we get businesses in line, like the movie theatre might run a movie for those children, or we could have a picnic on the Anzac Green and the mayor might come down with the donuts or something like that. And just another way to get into school kids connecting with one another and celebrating. We can list the kids out in the local newspapers. Just another way to show our children that we care about them, but also that they need to care about our community, and that when we see them doing the good things, we have a way in which we can positively reinforce that. I think about our local police who do a wonderful job for our community, and they have a hard job sometimes, and they often deal with the bad side of behaviour, and often they do like to look for the good as much as anybody else. And if they had these tokens in their cars or whatever, be great for them to be able to do that too. So, there's lots of potential there. And I know that all the other principals around the district that I've spoken to about this are very much on board, because they too feel that there's a need for us to be able to prove to our children that what they do can make a difference, and have some sort of system in place where we can show them that. That's really it.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so let's see what everybody thinks. Can I start with Gary?
Yeah, kia ora, Mark. We haven't met, but listen, welcome aboard. And a couple of things there resonated really, really well with me on your proposal. I guess one of them was the fact that as individuals we can actually make a difference, and the fact that you've made what you do matters to the younger generation come through there resonates really, really well with me. And we're full of negative news most of the time there, and it's just I think it's a fantastic idea. It's positive, and I'd love to see where we can go with this. So it's absolutely got my vote, Mark. Yeah, a good initiative. I absolutely love it.
Fantastic. Thanks, Gary.
Jill?
No, just had to unmute. No, I think it's wonderful. I've worked in the school system myself, and there's to encourage the children and to have and to be so positive, I think, and to get all the schools behind it. I think it's a wonderful idea, great initiative, and need to get started right away.
Right. Lou?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. It's got a lot of merit. Your idea has a lot of merit. We as the RSA, and I'm going to wear another hat here just for a minute, actually do the big sponsorships or scholarships for the Te Awamutu College. I don't know whether you realise that or not. We supply $2,000 for a male and $2,000 for female scholarships every year. We would look at this very, very seriously, and possibly put some money towards this, because it's right down the avenue that we like to sponsor. We're a community organisation, and we do like to sponsor these sort of things. And I think that having people with community responsibility is absolutely essential. And I can see us looking at this very seriously, Mark.
That's fantastic, mate.
What I would suggest is, I'm actually the president of the RSA, so I can talk from that point of view. I would love to have you come and talk to our executive, if you don't mind.
Mate, I'll be there. You tell me when.
Yeah, well, we're having a meeting next Tuesday night, and I could put you on the agenda if you like, just simply because I think this looks, to me, as something that should be promoted. It's over the whole community, as I understand it, and it is for the youth. And look, our people are absolutely emphatic that this is what we're about. So we've got gaming machines, and our trust, this is where we put the money from that trust. Okay?
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, like the plan really is to create a system that is sustainable. You know, if we were going to do this, and then we would launch it with an official launch where school councils or house captains or whatever would come, and we would have an official inter-school launch where we can talk about it to the community. You get the papers in and you post up how it all works. We need to have the buy-in from those people who would be giving out these tokens. So we need to talk to people who own businesses. We need to, I know that I've already spoken with the council about this idea, which is how I got to be here with you tonight. And they're on board to support this with their properties, where it be the swimming pool, the museum, those sort of things. Look, I know the bus companies, the bus drivers do such a fantastic job for us, and half of the problem is dealing with children, and they would love a way to recognise the ones that are always doing good. And I feel like that would be the win there. So we've got to make connections with all these people, and coming to the RSA is a wonderful idea. I'd love to be there to start that.
Brilliant.
Have you got an email address at all, Mark? Or
Yes, I very much do, as a principal.
If you
have you got a
want,
pen?
I'll send you both your contact details to each other.
Thank you. That'll be great. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you.
Right, so Susan.
Better up. Look, yeah, no, Mark, obviously welcome to the meeting. Yeah, look, I was supportive of your proposition when you put it to us at a council level. Was it last year now? I suppose it would have been. Yeah. Look, I guess my only question was, what do you actually need from us other than, you know, moral backing or a thumbs up? Is there anything else you need? I mean, obviously you've picked up Lou as a contact, that's handy, but what else do you think you need from us?
Well, I've got, you know, the easy sell was to the schools, so we've got the buy-in from them, and now it's and that's where my expertise lies. I know schools. I don't know who to talk to around things like businesses, and at the community level. This is the first, apart from talking with the council, this is the first time I've spoken outside of the school context around this idea. So for the help I need is to be talking to the right people at the right time to get the buy-in, and then once we've got the system in place, to bring it to them.
Ange is obviously a good person in that regard in terms of her connectivity to Chamber of Commerce. There's also a Retailers Association group. Not sure how active they are at the moment, and obviously their priorities are probably a little bit distracted at the moment, but I'm sure between us all we have fingers in a lot of pies that it can connect you to people around town. I mean, Gary's a real estate agent, so he knows all the agents, and yeah, I think between all of us we'd probably be able to have quite a broad reach, just in terms of our personal contacts.
For sure.
Great. That sounds amazing. So, you know, things like turning up to meetings when they gather en masse, and being able to tell the story of it all, that's going to help a lot with the buy-in. And then once everybody's on board, then we can start planning it out thoroughly, so we know exactly how the system's going to work, what training we need for this, because it's not, the vision isn't a lolly scramble. It's not, I don't like the kid's color. I like the color of his shoes, so he gets a token. It's not about that sort of thing. It needs to be a worthwhile reinforcement, and it needs to be a just-in-time thing for an appropriate action, if you know what I mean. So we need shops and business owners and the council workers and all these people that might be able, and police and all that, who might be able to give out a token, to understand the right way to do that. So it's the conversation and the interaction that they have with that child, where the value is in it, and that they have to be seen doing something that not more than basic expectation, if you like.
Yeah. Okay. Have you spoken with sports clubs?
Haven't yet, no. But that's a really important one, because that's one of the great places where children meet en masse, and you know, referees would be a great group to get on board, because you know, they have a hard enough job as it is. Very similar, I guess, in a lot of ways to the bus drivers I was talking about. And for them to have that in their back pocket, other than the red and yellow cards, would be quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, TA Sports is an obvious place to start. They cover a fair number of codes, and then I'm not quite sure who you'd be who you get in touch with at the netball, with the Netball Association. But Ange, do you know who that would be?
Yeah, probably Linda Springers would be your best starting point. She manages Te Awamutu Sports. So yeah, Linda would be a really good person to kick off with, because you've got a group of about 19 different organisations just under that one umbrella to get you started. So they would be a really good one that, you know, would get netball, yeah, would click into a whole heap of people.
Right.
Starting
Okay.
there.
That sounds good.
Kane.
Great initiative though, Mark. Well done.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry, Susan. So
Sorry,
Kane?
I just said a great initiative. Well done.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, I don't really have too much more to add, Mark. Sounds like a really positive initiative. The only thing I would be just querying, and I'm sure this is not the case, but there's not going to be, and this is a purely positive thing, it's not a negative side to it in terms of we're not going to be, kids are not going to be held up or anything for whatever behaviour. So it's purely going to be a positive. We're seeing the positive and we're reinforcing that.
100%, mate. It's all about just catching the kids in time and the right actions, and it's got nothing to do with anything negative whatsoever. So it's just about the kid being good, or well, not, I hate that. It's not the kid being good. It's somebody showing the values that we look for in our Te Awamutu citizens, and acknowledging that, and that's all it is.
Okay, that's great. Well done.
Excellent.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. From me, definitely a huge thumbs up. I love this sort of thing. But yeah, it really fits in with my work and my beliefs. So yeah, really excited to see where this is going. Possibly a little myth that Lou's jumped the gun on us to be able to support it. But whatever the community board can do along the way, we've definitely, you know, from all accounts, everybody's definitely very supportive. From the business point of view, I can probably help you out a little bit there, because as Susan pointed out, I'm involved with the Chamber of Commerce as well. So have you, I've just got one main question. Have you got a plan of how you'd like to see this roll out, you know, like where to from here?
Yeah, so how that would work would be, once we have all our parties or stakeholders invested and working with this process, then if we had somehow like a subcommittee formed, which is like the citizenship committee, I don't know what you call it, with different elements, like myself from the school perspective, and somebody from the commerce perspective, or someone from the council would meet, and from there start creating what these tokens might look like, how they're going to be created. It could be as simple as a bunch of business card style things printed off and given out, and then you know, really get the wheels turning. So we've got to get it from a concept, which is all it is right now, and get together with the right people to see how it will actually work. Because I have in my mind how I think it might work, but then I don't work in the commerce field, so I need someone with that expertise to tell me where the pitfalls are, that sort of thing.
Yep. So we need to look at working on the concept, and possibly looking at running a bit, maybe a smaller version of it to get started, to see where any of the hiccups are, so that we're not doing a great big, huge.
Yeah. What I would suggest,
launch, maybe, you know,
we would get maybe 4 or 5 different things where it was working. So for me, it would be straight away places like the swimming pool and the library. And then we might tap the shoulder of someone like, I know that the guys that run Paper Plus are very community minded, and they would be quite willing to jump on board. I haven't talked to them about it, I'm assuming here. So somewhere like that, and the movies, just, you know, 1 or 2 places. And then as that happens, and we make a big deal about these are the places where this is happening, and the police, of course, and Go Bus I would target as well. And then as that works out, we can branch out from there.
Okay, thank you so much, Mark. We'll definitely be in touch to sort of look at how we can get that subcommittee going and what sort of representation we need, and go from there. But no, it's an awesome idea. Thank you very much.
Oh, look, I really appreciate the time. Thank you for letting me speak, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. So thank you very much.
Sure. Hey, and you're most welcome to stay for our meeting, but if you've got other things to do, you're also very welcome to leave if you wish. So
Awesome.
thanks again.
Cool. I've got to go put my kids to bed, so I'm going to go do that. But that's awesome.
Okay.
Thanks very much, team.
Good as gold.
See you soon.
Thank you. Right, so I've just realised that I'm very sorry for an oversight. I actually missed the disclosure of members' interests. So does anyone need to disclose any conflict of interest in tonight's meeting at all?
No.
No, we're all good? Okay. So on to pages 4 to 11, which were the minutes of the previous meeting. As our normal practice now, that we will take those as read. So can I please have a mover and a seconder that the minutes of the meeting held on the 12th of May as circulated with the agenda be confirmed as true and accurate? Jill and Gary, thank you. We now move on to the Climax steam engine, not the climate steam engine. And this is pages 12 to 18. We have Gary Knighton, the Manager of Strategic Partnerships, here with us to talk to this report and answer any questions. So before we get into that, can I please have someone to move that the information contained in the report, Climax steam engine relocation from Gary, be received, and then we'll do the next part after that. Okay, Jill, seconder. Kane, thank you. So Gary, we'll hand over to you, sir.
Oh, kia ora tātou. Thanks very much, Ange. Yeah, look, if it's all right with you, I'll take the bulk of the history of the project as read, because there's quite a lot of it. But also up front, just really want to acknowledge the hard work and the fundraising that Russell Eason and the team at the Climax Trust have done on this, on the engine over the past 15 years now. It's been a labour of love for them, and but I think, you know, need to always bear in mind that they have been doing it for Te Awamutu. That's been their driver. They've always wanted it, you know, to give it back to the community in a much better state than what it was given to them. So just want to make sure that they get recognition for that. Yeah, there's also been a lot of history around where the engine should go, and a lot of discussions since, well, over the last 7 or 8 years about that. So I think it's important that now that the engine is largely complete, the restoration's complete, we get some closure on where to from here. For nothing else, it sits in the council depot at Daphne Street, and there is sort of some not quite urgency, but we do need to move it from that site. So to that end, I commissioned Becker Consultants last year to pull a report together on potential sites, and we were looking in the CBD, well, not the CBD, the hub area of Te Awamutu, and you have a copy of that report as Appendix 1, which I think is page 16, and a summary of the potential sites that they nominated is in figure 1, I think, summarised on page 13 of your agenda. Sally's community services team have done a supplementary assessment of that, just looked at those sites, or the key sites that were reserve sites anyway, and you have that on page 45, where they've looked at a few other criteria in there as well. But yeah, they have, Becker assessed the sites against those criteria, clear historical link for the engine, displaying it to the maximum number of visitors and tourists, and the security of the engine were the sort of 3 key criteria that they landed on. So you'll see and it's reflected in the recommendation that they their nominated preferred site was the Albert Park, a site on Albert Park Drive opposite the band rooms. So there's a little grassy area down from the is it the Scout Hall, just down from Scout Lane. So that will need further investigation, not the least of which will be a safety assessment for NZTA, who obviously operate State Highway 3, so would need their permission around that. Te Awamutu Lions, who's obviously associated with the project, have indicated to me their preferred site would be next to the eyesight. Probably preferred it to be in the museum itself, but failing that, next to the between the eyesight and the Walk of Fame on Arawata Street. That, just note, hasn't been supported by the parks assessment, and I guess the key criteria there being that it closes out some sight lines, closes out the majority of sight lines from Arawata Street for what is the premium reserve for Te Awamutu. We also really need to note that in terms of a budget for this, there is $100,000 allocated for the relocation. For that, you can expect probably 20 to 25,000 potentially on just moving the engine in itself. It'll have to be, Russell tells me, it'll have to be rolled out on rails out of the depot building, a cradle constructed which sort of links up to the rails and then craned onto a low loader and moved away. And the same thing, I guess, at the other end, so in reverse. So there is, it's not an insubstantial thing to move. Yeah, so estimates of a potential building, if we're going to build something for it, we've sort of varied from the 300,000 through to what Becker's had in that report, which was nearly $1 million for the site there. Which, and again, I guess in the current, in any environment, that's going to be it's not an insubstantial amount of money to raise, and in the current environment, even more difficult. Now, Russell did offer assistance in fundraising and potentially even taking it on as a project, but that was subject to a location that they could agree on being chosen for the site. Potentially there are some other options, and one there is taking it out of town to and giving it to a museum on a temporary or permanent basis to be housed. Clearly, that's not what the trust had in mind. Yeah, and I guess this, we're really keen to have your engagement around this. You know Te Awamutu very well. Well, might know some other sites that we should be looking at, some other opportunities that we should be looking at. I think that's probably, yes, so that's probably just a summary to start discussion anyway, if that's all right.
Absolutely, thanks, Gary. So let's start with Susan this time. Thoughts, comments? Please.
Sorry, I've got children watching TV. Look, it's a really thorny one. I mean, this community group have done some amazing work in restoring this engine, which you really can't fault in any way, and certainly the passion with which they've done it is really commendable. I guess the problem we're faced with now is the quandary of obviously where and at what cost, and I mean, the elephant in the room is that it's a very expensive proposal to house an item that has been brilliantly, lovingly restored, but that didn't have any particular origin in our district per se, beyond its more recent history as being a climbing frame for kids, if you like. And yet, again, at the same time, you've got this cost. So, and the fact that our lease is coming up. So I guess my question, Gary, to you is, what year is that money allocated for in the LTP? And when the lease is up, which I assume will be before the money becomes available, what then? Does it just sit and we renew the lease and it just continues to be something we don't make a decision about, or what?
No, sorry, Susan, the money's available now. It's available in this year, and I think it may have been last year as well. So we have rolled it forward. So it is, the money is there, can be used. I suspect, yes, we can probably extend that lease as well, but obviously that precludes us an opportunity to go anywhere else in terms of a depot. So yeah.
So the desire is to really, magic wand, you don't want to continue to renew that lease. Could that be right? Because there'd be other more suitable scenarios for other purposes for your
Well, I think
depot.
Not necessarily, well, yeah. I'm not necessarily saying we'd walk away from the lease, but it does give us opportunities to look at other things.
Options, yeah. Okay. Look, I mean, I'll probably be deemed a bit sacrilegious for saying this, but I'd really like to look at the possibility of Mystery Creek contemplating any interest in it. I mean, you've got to sound them out, and even Motat. I mean, there's sort of more synergy with those sorts of places. I would have thought, I mean, that's a lot of money to house it, a lot of money. And in this environment, I can't see it being raised in a hurry. And in the meantime, we've still got to house it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it pains me to say it, but it's the pretty obvious elephant in the middle of the room, because they've done it all with such passion and skill. But yeah, it comes down to cost. So,
I have had discussions with Mystery Creek, and yeah, they're not in a position, or
they're not interested.
Really interested, really, no.
I've got nothing then.
Okay, so let's move on to Kane. Thoughts from you, Kane?
So would Russell Easton be, what exactly do they want, and if do they want to take the challenge on of fundraising for this? Because that seems to me like probably one of the only palatable options.
Yeah, when I talked to Russell last, that they were keen on taking it on, but again, it's I guess location dependent.
So do we have an idea of where do we have all of their demands, for want of a better word?
Well, no, Russell and I worked through. He got a local company to start putting a quote together around that. It was looking at a more semi-industrial style building, rather than the sort of thing that Beckers have spec'd up. They were looking in that area between the eyesight and the Walk of Fame. I'm not sure whether they'd be amenable to other sites as well, that could, the other sites that may not be mentioned in this report.
Okay.
Okay, Kane, did you have anything further? Okay, Lou?
I've had some information. I've been talking to Russell about this, and I was just going to ask a question, mainly. Bunnings is leaving the area, okay? Their building is actually, the site is actually owned by the Anglican Church, but that includes the car park on the opposite side of the road. I've actually done some questions. My wife is a member of the church, and their property manager I haven't spoken to yet, but maybe they would let you use a part of that car park as a site which would suit the Lions as well. Whether they gift it or what they do, I don't know. We'd have to talk about that. It was just a thought.
Look, I think
it's right where they wanted it. They can have it as a display for the community. I don't know, just a thought.
We did, look, just to respond, we did have some plans, I think, drawn up around that a few years back as well, because that is also the site of the Smythe.
Smythe and Boyer.
You know, Smythe
That's
Boyer.
right.
So there is a link there, and that Jonas Smythe was the gifter or gifted
right.
it. So there is a link to there. Yeah, I guess that's why I don't want to sort of close out too much too soon, because that is an obvious possibility in there. But I guess we'll need to know what happens when Bunnings vacate the site.
Yeah.
So really, yeah, just good to have the feedback from you around those opportunities.
If I can just add in through the chair, one of the obviously the discussion today is around what is within our realm, so within public land that we have. So obviously an option is to, seeking direction. We've put forward a recommendation on public land, but we also don't really want to preclude if anything else pops up. So the item that you've talked about, Lou, around other private sites that could be investigated. So essentially, just supporting Gary and what he's talking about is, like, if we do have a preferred site that's on public land that you're happy to support, but there could be another resolution that doesn't preclude investigations on possible private land and those sort of ventures as well. So just a thought for the board to consider.
Okay, so we will move to Jill. Jill, comments?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a bit of a passion with this train. I've watched, the Lions work on it. I really do think it needs to. They've only done it so that with their heart, so that it can stay in Te Awamutu. So I think it would just be unreasonable for it to leave Te Awamutu, because the Te Awamutu Lions have spent 250,000 plus restoring it. I think if any of us would like to go and visit it, if you don't know what it looks like, that's a really good opportunity as well. I know that Russell Easton, I've talked to him too, and he is really keen to, try and find the money to make the building. So I think if we can find a site that we agree to, the council agree to, and he agrees to, then there'll be no cost to the council. They're willing to, as it says in the report, they're willing to, the Lions will take turns having viewings at it. So there'll be no extra cost to anybody else except the Lions. I do like the idea of it being beside the information centre. I think that's the perfect spot, but I know that everybody doesn't think that. But I also think the next best spot would be probably by the band rooms, if we could do that. But yeah, I think if anybody wants to go and look at it, yeah, I can organise that as well.
You don't think, through you, Madam Chair, you don't think that the site in Bunnings is not worthwhile looking at? Because I was very strong on that, because I think that's where it came from. Smythe and Boyer used to be there. That's where the engine came from.
Oh, sorry, Lou, I didn't know what Smythe and Boyer meant, because I haven't lived here that long.
Well, that was Bunnings, where Bunnings is, right across the road from the eyesight.
Is that where the train was?
Yeah, that's where, well, that's the people that owned it.
The people who owned it. I'd actually like to see the Bunnings, when it is vacated, be where our new museum is, and then that's going to cost a lot less to build it as well. But that's a different story.
Oh, that's different subject. But
it is.
The Anglican Church actually owns the land, all of that site.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay, Gary, your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Firstly, to Gary, yeah, thank you for the explanation on that one, Gary. I'll also take my hat off to the Lions and to Russell Easton in particular. in terms of the massive amount of work that's been done on this, not to mention the $250,000 worth of costs so far, let alone the volunteer work which has gone into that one. And I think they've done a fabulous job. I do remember the Smythe and Boys site really, really well. I remember playing as a kid on the Climax locomotive down at the Memorial Park, and I don't certainly that's not an appropriate site for it. I also agree with Susan in terms of the cost involved. I did raise my eyebrow when I looked at the prospective cost of housing that particular locomotive. I thought it was nowhere near that, so I was a little bit gobsmacked to see that. So there's got to be some way of getting that perhaps cost down. I had a look at all the sites, with the exception of one in the centre of town there, and I walked around the whole lot. And I think that as much as I initially thought that the eyesight or part of the museum complex proposed would be a good idea, I agree with the sightlines on that one, Gary, and I think that that's probably, that particular site has got more historical significance than a railway locomotive would suggest. So I totally agree that that's probably not appropriate to have it located there. I really, really keep coming back to the to site number 7, which is the recommendation of the consultants in South Gary. I think that's very well researched. I can see that it would also give us a link to the fact that we're a railway town at one stage. People travelling through on the main road don't realise is the main trunk line is at the other end of town, and that we were sitting on the end of the line for about 3.5 years prior to the King Country being opened up because of the conflict that was going on at the time. So there is a lot of connection there in history in that respect, and it certainly would remind people that are passing through on State Highway 3 that we do have a connection to the rail network and also the timber industry here, which was a thriving business at the time. So I like location number 7 from a personal perspective. I think it ticks a lot of the boxes there. I think Becca have done a really, really good job in terms of the brief that they've been given, obviously by Gary and his team. I certainly support that. I hadn't given too much thought to the Bunnings site, but I can also see that if that was to be achievable, perhaps that is a site that could also be looked at, less profile to a large extent. But in saying that, yes, site number 7's got my vote, and also in terms of the any financing, I think that the Lions and sponsorship from various parties could assist the job along just a little bit. But yeah, I like the report. I think the report's very well researched, and my ticks for site number 7, Madam Chair and Gary. Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Okay, so from here, my personal feeling is I would quite like to see the Bunnings site at least investigated, because I have actually spoken to Gary a little bit earlier, and as he rightly pointed out, because the site 7, which is my favourable one out of the Becker options, hasn't actually been okayed by transit. We probably actually need an alternative, and you know that Bunnings site probably would be that alternative. However, we do still have a short-term problem, because obviously the feeling does seem to be that we'd like to keep it in Te Awamutu, that there is an historical association, and as you pointed out, I know there would be a lot of Lions and people very upset if it was to go out of town after all of the hard work that they did to restore it. So anyway, coming back to the problem at hand is, of course, what happens to it in the meantime, if there is to be a fundraising effort to try and raise the money required for the building, what happens to it in the short term. So I'm not quite sure. We haven't got that down as something that we had to address tonight, but I probably, based on the feelings of everyone here, would actually like to suggest that our recommendation would be a combination one. Sorry, Kieran, we possibly might not quite have the let's see. So we want to say that the Te Awamutu Community Board recommend that we investigate the Bunnings site, and that we do certainly support the suggestion of the State Highway 3 site on Albert Park Drive, subject to further assessment of the feasibility. So how does that sound, folks, if we go with that? So Kieran, have you got that we would like to recommend that we investigate the corner of Arawata. However, we do support the Albert Park Drive option, should that be okayed by transit, I suppose. So if I got someone that would like to move that. Gary, someone to
I'll second it. I'll second
Susan?
it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And everyone in favour?
Aye.
Against? Okay, carried. Right, so thank you very much, Gary, and thank you to everyone for your input on that. That's awesome. So it looks like we might have a fundraiser mission to help with in the near future. And in the meantime, we'll leave you, Gary, with the headache of trying to find somewhere for the engine to live in the short term. So if anyone knows of a spare building, maybe.
Bunnings.
We'll just move it there in the interim.
You had it.
I don't know if anyone's heard the rumour that placemakers might be going there, so they might need the car park.
Well, that is true too. So that's yet to be seen.
But look, if anyone does have any other ideas, just drop me a line. If anyone can think of anything else.
I can tell you that the land won't be sold. It will all be retained by the Anglican Church. So even if Placemakers goes there, the ownership remains with the Anglican Church. So they'll set the criteria on the parking.
Maybe they could build the structure.
I doubt if the church has got any money.
Yeah.
Not the church, the Placemakers.
Well,
True. They could sponsor it.
Thanks, Gary.
Yeah.
I would just like to add that if anyone that's tuned in and listening has any bright suggestions, please feel free to contact any of us on the community board, and we can then either put you in contact with Gary. But so if there is anyone out there listening in tonight and you have some bright ideas, please feel free to come forward and talk to us. So as I say, thank you, Gary. We now need to move on to the quarterly reports. First up, we've got Wayne Allen covering the district growth. So if I can have someone to move that the growth report from Wayne Allen, Group Manager of District Growth and Regulatory Services, and the Water Services quarterly report of Martin Mould, Manager of Water Services, be accepted. Lou, Jill, thank you. So, Wayne, all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the Te Awamutu Community Board. Look, I won't take too long on the report. I'll just go through some of the key highlights, and it is a bit repetitive for the members of the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee. So this is the quarterly district growth report for the period 1 January through to 31 March of this year. Report's quite detailed and provides a snapshot really of growth and regulatory services related to matters arising out of the national, regional and local levels over that period. So there's no decision making is required by the committee. It's just primarily for your information purposes. The report should have been with you last month, but given all the COVID issues, it just didn't make it, so just apologies there. Parts 3 and 4 of the report is really just information from our strategy team. Reports pulled together from a number of parts of our organisation. So part 3 deals with a number of documents released by central government for public submissions, and which Waipā District Council has lodged submissions on. Not all of these matters relate to district growth, and if anybody's interested in any of those documents or the council submissions, if you haven't yet seen them, quite happy to provide that information through the Secretary. Part 4 discusses the sub-regional strategic planning initiatives, and so I really just take that as read. Part 5 of the report provides an update on the strategic planning work undertaken at the local level, particularly the updates on the structure plans for the various growth cells that you can see there. In terms of the growth cell development, just I guess some of the highlights from the side of the district. The T1 residential area, which is on the located on the western side of Te Awamutu between Prongia Road and Frontier Road. So my understanding is they're completing the first 2 stages there of the 40 residential lots, and the 224C, which is a subdivision provisions, will be issued in July. Just share a screen with you now in relation to some of the other growth cells. So just hang on a moment. So this is a screen of the Te Awamutu Country Club, and this is in the T2 area. So this is just next to the T1 growth cell on the western side, again between Porongia Road and Frontier Road. So initially Te Awamutu Country Club, that's developers are by Sanderson Group, and the initial proposal, as you can see as I scroll down, it goes right through down to Frontier Road. The initial proposal was for a complete retirement village there, and includes care facilities, dementia, clubhouse, health spas, ponds, and the like. Initially, it was for 180 retirement villas, but given the COVID issues, they've reduced that down to 95 retirement villas here, and they've partnered up with another developer to create a residential component, where I'm sort of circling here, of another 105 residential sections. So this is just a concept plan, but just gives you an idea. So it's next to our water tower there, and T1 is just a little bit further over that side there. So it just gives you an idea of what's proposed in this area, and so what they're doing at the moment is they're preparing a plan change for a private plan change to enable this development to occur, and working with our team on infrastructural issues. So I'm sure that plan change will come forward to the board for further considerations, but just an initial heads up on what's planned there. As I scroll down, these are just a couple of other developments. So the Swarbrick Drive, end of Swarbrick Drive T8. So this is 5 stages. This is just the first stage here of some 30 odd allotments, 28 plus 2 here. That is planned, so I understand, in October. And further down, these are just, this is the Thornton Road, Cambridge Road area. So it's just 20 odd lots in this area here. I don't think at this stage we're putting in a roundabout. It's more right turn bays, an initial part of the development. But again, a bit of development in this location here. These are existing sections that I've just sort of got the cursor on. Yeah, so, and then there's the industrial developments down Bond Road that, as I understand, are occurring as well. Just while I'm on the shared screen, I'll just flick through some information about building consent information. So it was interesting in terms of building consents that in terms of the numbers of applications that were received, they're pretty much back to pre-COVID numbers. There was a dip in April in here in terms of applications received, but in May we're back to 152 applications. So we're back to really the average that we're seeing across the months. Similarly, in May we scroll down. We granted 116 building consents. So again, it's pretty consistent with what we've been doing previous months. And if I go further down here in terms of value of applications, so these are values of applications received, so down obviously in April, but yeah, high again, 43.71 million of values of applications building consent received in the district for complexities. And then in terms of BC's finalised, so we did quite a bit of work in building consents that were issued for April, and yeah, slightly down the end for 23. So it's just really a bit of a snapshot there for the board in terms of building consents and I guess people's incentives or wanting to develop within the district. I'll just stop the share here in a sec. Okey-doke. So we're also dealing with the Trade Depot warehouse offices, which is in the airport, well, actually Sharp Road next to Torpedo 7. So it's a 34,000 square metre floor area building. It's valued at 24 million. And so they're just working through the building consents, should be nearing issue shortly. So it's, as I say, located on Sharp Road. So pretty significant development there. I've detailed in the report just changes for the district plan, section 6 as well. So there are a number of tidy up plan changes that as we work through them, will come through to the board as well. But there are plan changes there that our team have identified that some of the rules are just not working very well. So we wanted to reduce the complexity and unnecessary compliance costs for some of our developers. So, working to amend the plan in that regard. And then I guess in terms of the rest of the report, section 7 of the report is really just on the monitoring and enforcement statistics. So really just take that as read. And I guess that's a summary for the board, unless there's any questions. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne. That was a very comprehensive report too. Thank you very much. So questions, anyone got any? No, all quiet. Oh, you're getting let off the hook early. So I just had one that I'm really sorry. I was intending to email you to give you the little bit of a heads up on this one. And that is just a query that's come from the community in regard to the concrete curbing that has to be done when the roads are put in for a development. And what a couple of people actually have said to me, and then I also went and spoke to a developer that I know, and they were saying, is there any possibility of the order being changed, and so that when the big concrete trucks and the big so many properties are now all pre-framed, so there's heavy loads coming in that are driving across the beautiful new concrete curbing and smashing it before it's even the development's even finished. So they were asking, is there any possibility of that being able to be changed? Because it's either a significant cost for the developers to repair it, or potentially if it wasn't repaired properly and was done as a bit of a bodgy job to just make it look okay, it potentially could be quite a nasty cost for us as ratepayers in the future when those curbs all disintegrate because they were possibly bodgy to be fixed instead of repaired properly.
Yeah, that's certainly a valid issue that we grapple with on various occasions, and it's about when developers actually are undertaken, or developments are being undertaken on the site to protect the footpath and protect the curbing. And we do have requirements and standards associated with that, and that we let the building owners know, or developers know, when they're doing those works, what our requirements are, such as putting down appropriate sand, protecting our stormwater systems, protecting our curbing whilst development is occurring. So if there is damage that's been done as a result of construction work, then the development engineering team will generally follow that through if we have been aware of those sort of situations. So clearly, yeah, a valid issue, one that we do talk to our builders and developers about, and we do rely on them to ensure that when infrastructure is put down, that they protect that infrastructure.
Yeah. Obviously some of the contractors aren't possibly doing that well enough. But no, thanks for that, Wayne. I can feed that back.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not aware that that's that they need to do that little bit more, maybe, to try and protect them either. But a couple of them just asked, is it difficult to change the order? I mean, I don't know how the road and the curb fits together, but I imagine it might be something that has to be done quite closely to get together to make it all fit.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing through any information or examples or comments that are coming through from the developers. We're happy to talk to those folk and just work through those issues with them, because nobody, neither the ratepayers or the developers or owners of the sections, want any broken infrastructure outside the sections that people are buying in particular. So yeah, it's in the interest of all parties to ensure that the infrastructure is right up to scratch when the new developments go in.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
No worries.
All right. So I'd like to say thank you very much. And it is great to see that the building and development sector is actually looking pretty healthy considering the COVID situation. So I think at the moment, at least one part of council income's looking pretty solid going ahead. So let's hope, fingers crossed, that keeps going. So thanks very much, Wayne. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much.
Okay, cheers.
Okay.
Okay, so now we move on to the water services report with Martin Mould. So hi, Martin, lovely to have you. All yours.
Okay, good evening. Thanks, Madam Chair and community board members. So I won't keep you long either. Hopefully take the report as read and just highlight a couple of areas in the executive summary. And some of it's a little bit out of date, unfortunately, but it talks about that the quarter's been a challenging and busy time for the water services team, particularly with the drought and the low stream flow and dam level in the Te Tahi water supply. So that's certainly proved challenging for us to get through the summer, but we're out the other side now, thankfully. Obviously, that put increased pressure on the networks team to deliver sufficient drinking water. And I just like to say they did an excellent job, and I'm really proud of the way we got through that without them to stop water altogether. And the community did a really good job in saving water as well. And obviously, then following that summer, we then moved into COVID alert level 4 just to make life more complicated. So during that period, we only responded to major issues. We didn't respond to our normal CRMs and just to any major leaks in even the water or wastewater network. You'll see for this reporting period, the treatment plants were compliant for both bacteria and protozoa, and our articulation zones were fully compliant for this reporting period. However, we've done an audit on previous periods, and we did come across an area where we failed to take enough samples, and therefore we weren't compliant for the months of July and October, which unfortunately means we're non-compliant for the year. That's for the Pukarimu scheme. Which is disappointing, but we're putting new procedures in place to try and make sure that doesn't happen again. And the last one to mention is that the water services team as a whole are just undergoing a restructure, which just started today. So we like adding pressure on ourselves, so we'll be going through a month of consultation, or a few weeks of consultation for join a restructure. But it is a growth restructure, and at the end of it, there'll be an increase of numbers from 33 to 44 staff in the water business. And hopefully when we finish the consultation period, we'll probably have the order of 18 vacancies to fill due to 5 vacancies we haven't filled. But so we continue to be busy for the foreseeable time. And happy to answer any other questions.
Thanks, Martin. Gary.
Yeah, thanks very much, Martin. Good evening, and thanks for your report. Look, just on behalf of the residents that I speak to, in terms of how you've managed the drought situation there and the early water alert levels that you and your team have put us onto there, has obviously paid dividends. So in terms of our the water usage and the way that the community has come on board there, I think it's as it's been borne out, it was the best decision that you have made. So to go early and to do what we did, I think it's been outstanding. And looking at the way that Auckland is attempting to manage their water situation at the moment, and leaving it relatively late from my perspective, and from the residents down here, I think you guys have done an absolutely outstanding job. So hats off to you all. Thanks, Martin.
Yeah, thank you. We're reviewing what we did, and we probably went late. We should have probably gone to alert level 4 earlier. It got pretty close at times.
Yep. No, very good.
Okay, so has anyone else got any comments in regard to the water report, Jill?
Yeah, just not necessarily in the report, but just yeah, a lot of people being naive in the community, but there's a lot of people I've spoken to, well, everyone I've spoken to, couldn't believe that the water meters weren't read over COVID. They'd say, well, look, there's nobody around, it's right out the front of our house, we're not going to pay the bill that came out that said just pay the same as last time. So I think the council will find a lot of people won't pay, they'll just pay when they get the next one in another 3 months' time. But so just a little bit of feedback from everyone I've spoken to has said, you know, they weren't happy that they just got a bill saying pay the same as last time. It didn't even give an estimated amount. It just said pay the same as last time, hoping people could find their last bill. And so they said they'd all wait for the next one to come out.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, yeah, the not reading the meters was out of our control. Obviously, it was level 4 and
yeah.
we were at lockdown, so we didn't have much choice. And yeah, and I think the bills should have, we probably, if we didn't put a dollar amount on, we probably should have done to say, pay what you paid last time and this is what it is. And we'll correct any difference on the next cycle. Yeah.
Just to let you know, there's probably a lot of people that won't pay. Yeah, just yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
Okay, Kane, you've got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Well done on managing the levels. I think that was really well done. Just a question around the risk associated with the sampling and what, could you sort of go into a little bit more detail on that, please?
Yeah, so to be compliant, we have to take samples every 3 days in a rural scheme. So they're scheduled out through the year to make sure we're catching them every 3 days. And I think a statutory holiday messed up the design, so we didn't take it on the 3rd day, we took it on the 4th day. So it's very, very low risk of any contamination, but it just means we didn't meet the fairly strict rules for compliance, which is fair enough. But there was very low risk to the community from that because we took a sample the next day.
Okay, so basically it was take it on the 3rd day, but you took it on the 4th because of a holiday or something.
Yes.
And then you caught that up and then took it every year back into the schedule. So pretty low.
Yep.
Thank you.
All good, Kane? Yep, so no other questions? Okay, so thank you very, very much, Martin. Really appreciate your time. Always a great report, and a big thank you from all of us for the awesome work that you guys do, especially over the summer to keep us going. As everyone else has said, there was awesome communication out to everybody about what to do to try and, you know, save the water. And I know lots of people actually really got in behind it. You know, I had friends that had buckets in the shower and buckets in the sink, and they were watering their plants from leftover water. So it was really neat to see the community actually step in and get behind. And really looking forward to seeing this new pipe all completed. So no doubt you're busy on that at the moment.
Yep, I think we've still got next summer to get through before that's complete. So, yep, be on our toes again next summer. Yep.
But it's pretty much on target, isn't it, for where you want to be, with the exception of the few weeks off through COVID?
Yep, yeah. So because it's quite a long time, that won't make much of a difference because we'll be able to catch up. But yeah, so it's still on target to be finished when we hope it will be. But yeah, it was always going to be not next summer. So.
Yeah, great. It always amazes me how sometimes people in the community, it's one of their, you know, pet problems is about the water and running short, and this is what we should be spending our money on. And, you know, I often go back and go, well, we are doing exactly that. They can only get the pipe in as fast as they can get the pipe in. It is coming. So we're trying to fight the fight for you on this side as well. So thanks very much, Martin. Have a lovely evening, and thanks again for joining us.
Cool. Thank you. Good evening.
Okay, we are on to the Treasury report, which we will find on pages 115 and 117. So can I have someone to move and second that the Treasury report for the Te Awamutu Community Board of Sarah Davies, Manager of Finance for the period ended 30th of April 2020 be received? Yep, Kane and Jill, thank you very much. Have we got any comments regarding the Treasury report? Kane?
Do we have any guidance as to whether that's going to be, is there going to be any changes to the amounts at all, or is this set for this year?
So we have got a couple of lots of money that is going to be requested coming up next. So that will reduce the balance. I do know that there is going to be coming up a slight change to how we handle the discretionary fund to cover that. We're going to be able to help out with some COVID related requests. So I am hoping that, like last year, the balance of our fund will be able to roll over, and especially in light of the fact that some of the money that we'd had hoped to have been able to spend on some of our waste minimisation projects weren't able to happen as planned, so that we'll be able to, as I say, roll it over like what we did last time.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, just to confirm that at the 1st of July, the Community Board will be getting a new amount of money that will go towards your discretionary spending there for the discretionary fund as well.
Oh, yeah. I was hoping that wasn't being clipped. So, yeah, so this balance, in addition to our new fund that we will get at the beginning of the financial year. Yeah.
Yeah, they do roll over those discretionary funds.
Yeah, we definitely did last year. So.
Yeah, no, it will happen again. Yeah.
Great. So has anyone else got anything further? Otherwise, we can just keep moving on and have a look at these discretionary fund applications, because of course there'll be a little bit of chatter about that, so we can keep moving. Yep. Okay. So on to pages 119 and 122. We have a fund application from ComSafe. So can I please have someone to move and second that the discretionary fund application from ComSafe and Central Kids Kihi Kindergarten be received?
Yep.
Gary, thank you. And Jill, thank you. So first up, we will have a look at ComSafe, which, as I say, is 119 to 122. Now, they were applying for $3,000 to use towards the Gets Ready database, which I think I've said before, it's a very comprehensive database that has lots of very, very useful information, especially in light of if we had a civil defence emergency where we're needing to call on community resources, because a lot of those details are actually included. So, for example, if you've got someone with a digger, they can put those details in, and so you would know that you've got someone on this side of the Mangahui that has a digger and can come to the rescue over by Albert Park, just as an example. So that's part of the database. It's also used for the fantastic work that ComSafe have been doing around neighbourhood support newsletters and getting people on board with neighbourhood support. So let's go from there. Gary, I'll start with you this time.
Yep, thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, fully support that one to the full amount. At this stage, I have complete faith that the database is put to extremely good use based on what you've given me and also on my knowledge of how the operation runs. So no, nothing more to be said, really, fully support it.
Yep, Kane?
Yeah, I agree with Gary. I think it's useful to support. Yep.
Okay, Jill? Mute. You need to unmute yourself. Sweet.
Sorry, I got used to doing that last time. No, definitely 100% support that. I think the full amount, definitely.
Okay, Lou?
Absolutely supportive. I receive the reports regularly and they do a marvellous job. And I think that the community safety officer does a marvellous job. I'm 100% supportive of it.
Okay, thank you. Susan?
I'm two people. I'm me and Richard.
Yep.
Richard is experiencing difficulties in getting audio out. He can hear us, but he can't seem to speak. So I've just read the email he sent me. He was obviously going to comment on ComSafe application, and he was going to point out that they already get $40,000 grant annually anyway. They've just got their third vehicle from council, and they didn't pay any rent for the office, which is also council owned. He says they've got 16 grand in the bank with no plans to use it in the year. So obviously, I take it from that he opposes the request for the funding as set out in their application. And on my part, look, I do have some sympathy for what Richard has pointed out, but at the end of the day, we have the money there. ComSafe do a great job, so I would have no difficulty supporting it as well.
Okay, so based on that, now I do stand to be corrected that under our current rules, Kieran or Joe, can you just clarify, seeing as we're on a Zoom meeting and because Richard had technical problems, is he allowed to take part in the voting part of this resolution?
No, he can't take part of the vote.
Yeah, I thought
part in the vote. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. However, we're taking on board. So, does anyone have a change of heart on what they would like to do based on the information they have received via Richard, though?
No.
No. Okay. So, can I please have someone to move that the Te Awamutu Community Board allocate ComSafe $3,000 from the discretionary fund?
Happy to move.
Yep. Susan, Gary. Okay. Thanks. Thank you very much. Right, now we get to Central Kids Kihi Kindergarten. Now these guys do a great job out there as well. They've done a lot of fundraising by the look of it, and have already raised $12,000 for their carpentry shed for the kindergarten. They're asking for an additional, I just can't remember their exact amount off the top of my head, so I'm going to quickly scoot down if someone's got it.
$3,791.10.
Thanks, Susan. I knew it was an exact amount to help pay for curtains, the curtain sides on the carpentry shed. So let's fire away. Let's start with Lou this time.
Yeah, I think this is merit. Once again, it's a community thing, and they've done a great job themselves. So at the present point in time, as long as we've got the funds, and I really think that this is something that's good for the community, for the kids and everything. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Jill.
I've unmuted. Yeah, no, definitely. The government pay them money. It's never enough. So they've done their own fundraising. So I totally support the full amount.
Right. Susan?
I'm just worried about a floodgates kind of scenario, because I know there are a lot of early childhood centres who really are on the bones of their behinds, and I'm not suggesting that it's not a merit worthy application, but I'm just curious about the position it might put us in if we grant $3,791.10 to a kindergarten. We will have an influx and flood of from all ECEs. I know that when Jack was at Hazelmere Kindergarten, we talked at length about how they needed funding, and I suggested this avenue in terms of the community board, but they understood, it was their feeling that they weren't really, as an educational institution, considered appropriate for the sort of application or venue. So it's more a floodgates kind of argument, and if we give them $3,000, we could find out, or just under $4,000, we could find ourselves in a position where every ECE seeks equivalent funding, and it will be difficult to be in that position to fend them all off. And that's not saying that there is no merit in their claims and what they're doing with it. I totally get that, and I know they're underfunded and all that. It's more a question of, you set a precedent, and where does that then put us vis-a-vis other non-funded, entirely charitable organisations that really, we are their only source of funding. That was my hesitation, and to that end I really wasn't certain where I'd sit, but I don't know that I'd give them the whole grant. In fact, I know I wouldn't give them the whole grant.
Okay. Kane? Thanks, Susan.
Yeah, I think I'd support a portion of the 3,700. I don't know, between 1,500 and 2,000.
Okay. Gary?
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Look, before tonight's discussion there, I had sort of earmarked about $1,000. Two reasons. I concur with Susan in terms of once it is known in the community that we are supporting the organisations to that level there, I think we run a little bit of a risk there. I think they certainly have merit. I think we should be seen to be making a contribution towards the project. I fully support that. My feeling is around about $1,000 from the budget to support them, but in terms of the full amount, I don't think that we should be going down that track there. And I would be, if we did go down that track there, I'm with Susan on this one there. Look out the flood of applications that are going to start coming in.
Okay, thanks, Gary. My penny's worth would be, I hear what you're saying. I think we could differentiate by the fact that those that had made a good fundraising effort, that could be the ones that we considered. And also a number of the early child care centres are privately owned, so they wouldn't meet our criteria anyway. However, in saying that, I hear what everybody's saying. So could I please have someone make a recommendation to an amount that we can move, that we do give them in light of the efforts that they've made to do a considerable amount of their own fundraising, and just to show them some level of support. So yep, Gary, go.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm happy to recommend support of $1,000 from discretionary grants to support the organisation. Yep.
Okay, so is $1,000 second? Okay, so we're saying that the Te Awamutu Community Board allocate $1,000 to the Central Kids Kihikihi Kindergarten from our discretionary fund. So all in favour of that motion?
And hang on a second, I think Jill wanted to say something.
Sorry, Kane, I can't. Sorry, you can't. Once we've started the recommendation, you've spoken once. You can't interrupt in the middle of the actual recommendation. Okay, so we've had a recommendation for $1,000. We've had Gary move it. We've had Susan second it. So now what we can do is we vote all in favour.
Aye.
Okay, so we have Gary, Kane, were you in favour, or? I can't hear you.
I'm not in favour. I'm not in favour because of how it all came about.
Well, I'm sorry. That's our standing orders, and that's how we have to proceed. Unless I've got something wrong, and I will go to Joe or Kieran to correct me if I have misinterpreted the rules. Oh, they've gone very quiet. Have they run away?
Well, there was a motion on the table. I think the only people that could amend that motion are those people that put that motion forward. That's right, isn't that, Kieran? So, yeah, it would have been up to the original movers to amend. Otherwise, you've got to vote, and you vote on that, and then if it doesn't succeed, then you can put another motion.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking should be that correct format. So, Gary, we've got a yes from you. Susan, we have a yes from you. Lou, do we have a yes?
Yeah, I went with the motion.
Yes, so we have a yes. So we have 3 for a yes, 2 for no, and so that carries.
Motion carried.
Okay, sorry guys, but we do have to follow our standing orders, and we'll have a little chat about that afterwards, to help clarify that, because I got caught with that in one of my first meetings as well when I first started on community board. Okay, so we have the extension of discretionary funding being removed. So we now move to board members' reports from meetings that you have attended on behalf of the Te Awamutu Community Board. So let's start with Jill on that one, because I'm sure Jill's been to see some people. So Jill, who have you been to see, and what's your update for us? Thanks.
It's quite funny. I haven't been because we haven't been allowed to, have we?
No, well, I thought you still would have managed to.
So my last report was last month was ones I'd been to before Corona. but now, no, I haven't been to any, except that I just wanted to report that I did in my last one mention that the footpaths on Cambridge Road, and they were meant to have been attended to, and they're still very dangerous and need a sign there, and they haven't got anything, so it's something waiting to happen. I've also got a couple of 3 groups that I'm meeting in the next couple of weeks. I've been waiting till we can actually contact each other. 2 to do with the youth of Te Awamutu and 2 to do with the bike group that I talked about. And I also just want to let you know that I mentioned that on Te Mawhai Road at the old Tokanui village, how it was looking a bit miserable out there. And I approached the council to see if it was their land, and it wasn't, and it's actually a trust. And I got in touch with the trust in Wellington, and they were very pleased I had, and they had been let down by their contractor, and now it's been done.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good news.
Okay.
Okay, so thanks, Jill.
Okay.
Gary, have you been caught up with anyone of late that you'd like to share?
Indeed, I have. Just look, a couple of things. I've had an approach from several members of 2 streets in town. Probably this is for Sally, Fairview Road and in Wallace Terrace. Now, they're doing a replacement curbside tree program along those 2 streets in particular, which I wasn't aware of. I had a couple of people there who have approached me and said, look, we don't want trees outside our property, and we were asked of the morning that the planting was carried out. So we've got some mixed reactions from people there, and I have to, it's crossed my mind that quite an interesting time to be running expenditure on something which is nice to have in these particular times, and the fact that there are people that actually don't want these things outside their house. So I'm not quite sure in terms of the planting program why that was carried out at this particular time, and perhaps the residents can be canvassed as to actually whether they want them. So I can't understand why we'd run expenditure of that nature on something that somebody actually hasn't asked for. So that's one. Just a couple of things in terms of, I'd certainly like the community board to consider running a letter of congratulations to former board member and chair Hazel Barnes, who received a Queen's Service Award just recently, and I think we need to acknowledge the contribution that she has done, because she was an active member of the board. And also, I think we just overlooked the passing of another board member who was also a councillor, George Simmons, recently passed away, and I'd really like us to see that the community board acknowledges to his family, and to send a bouquet of flowers on behalf of the board through to George's family in that respect. So those are the only items that I have from my perspective, Madam Chair.
Thanks, Gary. You got me on the jump on that one, because I thought that sounds like a great idea in regard to George. So is everyone happy that we did get some flowers to send to Jocelyn and family with a card to acknowledge and just put a little thank you in with that for all the years of hard work that George did for council from us. I've actually also got another one too that maybe we don't need to do the flowers, but at least to send a card on behalf of community board, and that was the passing of Colin Hall, who was previously our community police officer for Te Awamutu for many, many years, a stalwart of Kāinga Aroha, of setting up the men's shed, and numerous other community projects that maybe we could also send a card to his wife Nairi to say thank you for his extensive work in the community over the years as well.
Yep, absolutely.
So if everyone's happy for that, that would be awesome. If Karen, can I delegate that to you, or would you like me to do that? I don't mind.
We'll work together on it, Ange.
Yep, lovely, thank you. And also, as Gary had pointed out, the acknowledgement of Hazel receiving the Queen's Service Medal for her contribution to local government and community. And also, it probably would be nice that while we're doing a congratulations card for Hazel, that we also acknowledge Lois Chick for her service to teaching, as she received an Order of New Zealand Merit for her services to teaching. So if we can do those two, if everybody's happy for us to do that,
yep.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Because those people, that's what community's about, and being able to say thank you, I think, is a really important role that we have as community board. So Gary, is that all?
Yeah, that's all for me, Madam Chair.
Yep.
Thank you. Yep.
So Kane, is there anything that you would like to add to that?
Yes, I went to the RSA meeting on Sunday around the Memorial Park. Found it very enlightening, and there's a lot of information that we can pass on in a later discussion. It's very good. One for Sally, there was some spraying being done outside my house, which is a no spray. I've got it on the register. The guys came up, sprayed, then saw the yellow markings that were about 3 years old, and then didn't spray the next lot. So I thought that was interesting. I wonder how much of that's going on. Well, they haven't raised a complaint or anything, but I thought I'd just raise it now quickly. Also, there's legal action in the US starting today against the US EPA regarding the neurotoxicity of fluoride chemicals. So I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm joining a couple of groups to discuss what's happening in there, and I think there'll be a discussion coming up shortly at the community board, so I'll be able to share the results of that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Kane. Susan, have you got any updates for us from your side of council and your committees that you're on?
Just firstly to extend the thanks to the board for your submissions on the annual plan process. I think it's the first time, I think, since I've been on council that the Te Awamutu Community Board actually managed to get a really comprehensive and well thought through submission, which was really well received, and I can tell you can all rest assured that Ange delivered those submissions really well in a really professional, succinct and comprehensive manner, and certainly she stood out as one of the submitters, that's for sure, and I think she's did put a really good foot forward for us in that space. So congratulations, Ange. And the other thing, which isn't mine, but I'll show you something funny in a minute, but Richard wants to know, with Memorial Park, when do we get to walk through with the staff and the designers? He's got some issues as well. So I'm just putting that out there.
Yeah.
So before we answer that, hey, Sally, something's wrong with this picture. Look on top of the, there's a freaking...
What is it?
Supermarket trolley.
Oh. How did they get that up
I
there?
sent it through as a CRM today. I wasn't sure if somebody else had beaten me, but I thought that's a corker of a picture. Such physical strength to get it up there, and why you're really lateral thinking, but plainly wildly stupid.
Would have hurt if it had fallen on them. Okay, thanks, Susan. Lou, have you got anything to add to that as well?
Not a lot, though. I would like to congratulate you, Ange, on your submissions to the council. Well done.
Thank you.
And in your own private one, they were certainly a highlight for me, and well done. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so I've just got a couple of very quick things. I also attended the meeting. Thank you, Lou, for inviting me along to the RSA workshop in regard to the Memorial Park. So we're looking forward to seeing the RSA's submission there, and hopefully a whole lot of people that attended. I think we got the message across that they need to do submissions. So hopefully we're educating people, and we were able to also educate a few more people about how the process is supposed to work, and calm their fears that this is a done plan and it's set in concrete, that it absolutely isn't. And we are looking for feedback from people, from the community and from the public. Also on the Memorial Park side of things, wearing my own hat with the Te Awamutu community Facebook page. I've run around about 23 polls so far, itemising each of the things that are going to happen in the park to get feedback from people. So those are currently running at the moment, and I will provide that information probably at the July community board meeting to let people know what the results were of those polls, because people are still currently able to take part in them. I also just wanted to add in here that if anybody has a problem with footpaths, anything that they need to report, whether it's good or bad, that when you ring council and use their CRM system, ask for a reference number, because then if you can provide us with the reference number, we can then track it. So for community board members as well, if you're encouraging people to ring in to the CRM, just remind them to grab that CRM reference number, because then that makes the job way more traceable. I've got that right, Sally, haven't I? Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Okay, so if we haven't got anything further from board members in regard to meetings attended, I think that will conclude our meeting for tonight in the official part of our community board meeting. So our next community board meeting will be at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, the 14th of July. And as we have now got back to COVID-1, that will be in the Te Awamutu Council chambers. So we welcome anyone along to the meeting to take part in the public forum. Thank you very, very much for joining us this evening and sitting in on our meeting. I hope you've learnt a little bit more about the workings and going on of Community Board and your council. And congratulations to everybody on the awesome efforts to get us to COVID level 1. It's been a community effort, and I get a bit emotional, but as Kiwis, as Te Awamutu people, we can all be very, very proud, because I think, excuse me, we're one of the few countries in the world to get to here. So fingers crossed we can stay there and be safe. Keep remembering to wash your hands and do the right thing. So thanks very much, everyone, and good night. And fellow community board members, don't get too far away, because we've got a couple